Welcome to Riverdale After Dark, a podcast about the CW's Riverdale that's kissing its friends just for fun. No big deal, no pressure, nothing going on. I'm Alex.
Some days seem dark, but other days are pretty fucking great and pretty fun because everyone's falling in love in a new and fresh way. Whee! I'm Justin.
And we are going to be talking about Chapter 72, To Die For, which was a huge episode of Riverdale.
So much.
I got to tell you, it was so huge. I mean, I normally watch the episodes a couple of times anyway, just to like really get the nuance.
Yeah.
But this one was one that I was watching, and I kind of could not process everything that was going on. And watching it the second time through, I was like, all right, okay, I get what was going on. Because I kept expecting these different swerves to happen that were going to happen. So it was a lot. It was a lot to take in.
Yeah, and what I love about this episode is it's unabashedly like, oh, here are some reveals. Like,
yes.
Just like crazy, just like hard turns, hard stops, just hard like, no, they tried to kill Jughead. They had this scam the whole time. Like all of these like big hits just said very subtly. It wasn't like, I feel like in seasons past, it was like, big dramatic buildup and like, boom, the reveal of the Black Hood. This is like hit.
Well, it was also so meta the entire time. I mean, we'll talk about this, but not that it is out of the realm of possibility for Riverdale, because it's certainly done this before, but the amount of clearly commenting on what they knew was going to be the conversation around not just Jughead dying, quote unquote, but the romantic stuff that happens in this episode as well. Like, it's pulled right out of Reddit, pulled right out of Twitter. It's them commenting on it's multiple characters commenting on what's happening in the episode the same way viewers have been commenting on what's going on. And I honestly thought that was such a smart decision.
It's so good. And honestly, I think Riverdale's the only show, the only like piece of content that could do this. It's like, imagine if Star Wars was like, Emperor Palpatine or whatever is like, Ray, I bet you're wondering if I'm your dad. Have you been thinking about that? Because a lot of people in here have been talking about it.
And you're probably wondering if you and Kylo are related. That would put a real kibosh on #Raylo.
Yeah, exactly. And that's literally what this show is, throwing out Bargy and Bughead, which is a crazy thing to do.
And they've done that before. Like, they've used the hashtag names before. They've used the shipping names before. But there was such a density of them in this episode. There was we'll talk about the Kevin speech later on. That happens.
As it's known, Kevin speech.
The Kevin speech. That was the point where I was like, I feel like my brain is breaking right now while I'm watching this.
Like I've said many times on this podcast, Riverdale's the only show where they could say, no, remember last week on Riverdale, this crazy thing happened. And we'd be like, yeah, I know. Yeah, we're all watching this together, characters and real humans.
And then they show up next to you like, what do you think about the scene so far?
Yeah, exactly. We've gone crazy. This episode has shattered us.
Pretty much. Now, a couple of things. I'm going to recap what brought us to this point, which is a lot of stuff. We're, of course, going to talk through the episode. We also got some theories and comments and questions from you all on Instagram and on Twitter that, if we have time, we will definitely get to as many of them as we can get to. We also, you might notice, Pete is not here this week, unfortunately. We're not able to talk about this with Pete, which I got to say, there'd be a lot of shouting.
Yes, and it's fine. Give ourselves give our ears a break.
He, however, did send in a statement on this episode to us.
Yes.
So we'll go through the whole recap, and then we'll read Pete's statement at the end. Sound good?
Like a disgraced politician, Pete has a statement for us to read about this fiasco that he's embroiled in.
I have made many mistakes in the past and will make more in the future. Anyway. All right. So lots of stuff going on in River. The big thing that you need to know, of course, about is that Jughead is presumed dead. He's dead. He's dead when we go into the episode, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100% dead. And he's dead at the end of the episode 100%.
As well. Inside.
Oh, geez. Oh, that's going to be interesting. So Jughead was hit on the head by a rock, presumably by the Stonewall Prep Squad.
It's right in the name, Stone. Big clue.
And he's the wall.
Exactly.
Amanda the Wall Waller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, think. It's all right in front of us.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
So Jughead got hit in the head by a rock. They tried to frame Betty Cooper for doing it. However, she saw through the ruse with the help of her half-brother, Charles Smith. Found out that, in fact, they hit her with a powder called Devil's Breath that froze her. They put the rock in her hand and tried to, again, not just frame her for the murder, but also make them hide Jughead's body and hide the crime so that I guess they could always have something over them. Right?
Right. It's really wild.
Yes.
The scheme that's revealed in this episode is wild. It relies on a lot of factors that they have no control over.
Right.
But it mostly works.
It does mostly work.
All the schemes in this episode mostly work.
Essentially what they boil down to is there's this chess match where everybody is essentially playing tops 2 moves ahead.
Yeah.
So it is Betty versus the Stonewall Squad. Specifically, she is going for a woman named Donna Sweett, who has turned out to not be the demure helper of Jughead, but in fact the ringleader of the whole Stonewall Squad, including Bret, Weston, Wallis, who is a douchebag who goes to Stonewall as well, who has had it in for Jughead, had it in for Betty, took a sex tape of both of them, lorded it over them, and led to Jughead being framed for plagiarism, kicked out of the school, and then they stole his book that he wrote for the Baxter Brothers novel series, which is a series of Hardy Boys-esque novels that he was working on up until that point as a ghostwriter. Also kind of important to know, sort of in the background of the episode, is there is Mr. DuPont, Francis DuPont, who is their English teacher at Stonewall Prep. He helped the Stonewall students steal the novel. He doesn't really play into the events here, but I think it's just sort of important information because that's certainly something motivating in the background. Now, Betty has been on the warpath coming for Donna, turned the tables on her by revealing Jughead's body, but also switching the stone that was discovered covered in blood with a stone covered in fake blood. So that was her big...
That was sent off to be tested
by
with
the FBI, who clearly was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Took a minute.
We have more important things to be dealing with.
Is that a package from Riverdale? Don't open it.
Oh, man. Oh, is that one of those corn syrup blood?
Yeah.
Blood-covered rocks?
Lick it.
I'm not going to lick that.
Sweet.
So that's what's going on. She also was hiding the seeming murder with Archie and Veronica. They, last episode, had been jumping around trying to keep secrets. Archie revealed whatever their secret was to his mom, Mary Andrews, towards the end of the last episode, but Veronica revealed it to nobody, including her sister Hermosa, who became very suspicious and said she was going to start investigating Veronica. And that's kind of what you need to know. I mean, there's more things like FP is the sheriff.
Yeah.
He was investigating the murder, and very specifically, Betty said FP needs to find Jughead's body. That's a little dangling detail that gets paid off in this episode. And also, there is an important character named Sweett Pea.
Yes, he is important, and he does a lot in this episode. Like says, "Hey, what the?" And then that's it.
Yeah, and then goes back to being on Looking for Alaska or whatever he's doing.
Yeah.
I think he's on a show called Nurses now. I could be wrong.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Congrats to him.
Hey, he's doing great.
Yeah.
Jordan Connor,
Nursing.
fun guy.
Yeah.
Want to see him more.
And it is funny. He was sort of built up as like being a guest star in this episode, but it really truly is to just put his face out there and be like, "Yeah."
And to their credit, though, people on Twitter were like, "Yes, Sweett Pea, my beautiful little boy, is back." So even if he didn't really do that much. So, good for him.
Good for him.
Good for him. Let's kick this off. Let's get into this, Justin.
Let's get into it. Let's start at the beginning. There's a quote, which is not something we do on Riverdale very often. Life's not an Agatha Christie novel. It's a lot messier.
From Jughead Jones.
From Jughead Jones.
Born October 2nd, something or other. And
yeah,
then
like 2000 something.
The weird detail to me was they put that he died March 18th.
Yeah, which is still in the future.
Well, no. It's still in the future, but it's also 3 days after the Ides of March party. So they were saying his death date is when they found his body, not when he was killed 3 days earlier.
Autopsy. I mean, Dr. Curdle.
He
He's
doesn't
like,
know
this
what the
body's
fuck he's
dead.
doing.
I'd like to pronounce this dead man dead.
I don't know. Do you think maybe Betty came back and cocked him on the head a couple more times just to make sure? Finish off the job.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the quote? Life's not an Agatha Christie novel. It's a lot messier. I mean, this plot is messy.
Yes.
And the way that they're playing this sort of revenge game is messy as well. Do you think that's the illusion there?
Well, I mean, I think it succeeded at two things, right? First of all, we've mentioned and everybody's mentioned that Jughead cannot be dead because his narration has opened the episodes. This is an episode that technically opened with the narration, but teased the fact that he was actually dead. So you spend the entire episode wondering about that. And then I forgot what the other thing was.
This conversation's not an Agatha Christie novel. It's a lot messier.
It's much messier.
Yeah, I mean, I do think the idea maybe being here that like the Murder on the Orient Express is about how a bunch of people separately contribute to the murder of a person, and they only solve it by looking at what everyone's done.
Right.
And there's a little bit of that to this, but it is just legitimately messy.
Well, both the allusions that happen in the episode, both Agatha Christie and then later on at Jughead's funeral, Betty reads
a very telling Sherlock Holmes quote.
She reads a very telling Sherlock Holmes quote, but it's from the final Sherlock Holmes story, the one where Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty tumble off of the ledge, never to be seen again. And it's clearly meant to indicate that, like in the story, you never know whether they're dead or alive. But it doesn't, neither of them are one-to-one. Like Agatha Christie is not one-to-one. The closest, I think, in terms of stories that they reference is when Kevin references the Tom Sawyer story.
Yeah.
That was the point in the episode where I was like, okay, all right, he's coming back this episode. He's alive. We're going to solve this thing.
But I do think if Betty's quote about the Sherlock Holmes quote feels very pointed to like, hey, Stonies, if we don't break this cycle, we're going to kill each other.
Yes.
But she also does not seem interested in breaking the cycle.
No,
she's
not
like,
at
we
all.
have to kill the
We
Stonies.
have to win.
Yeah. So it's wild. But jumping into the episode itself, Betty gets a call. It's Yale. She's getting Jughead's spot, which is a very standard thing colleges do.
Right. That's how I got into Cornell.
Yeah. You let someone be murdered.
Yeah. I murdered my boyfriend.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good essay. It's a good essay. Why I murdered my boyfriend. And they're like, nice.
Yeah. Great extracurricular. You know how hard it is to plan a murder? Let alone get away with it?
What is interesting to me in retrospect, knowing what we know by the end of the episode, is Betty's reaction here. Because, again, watching it through the second time, there's a lot of reactions and a lot of deliveries that are a lot clearer.
Yeah.
The fact that she bursts out crying at this felt real to me.
Yeah.
But it could have been a performance for Alice. I guess just Alice, actually, in particular. What was your takeaway from it?
No, I mean, this was back when it was sort of, you didn't know if Jughead was alive, per se, so it felt like just a cry.
Yeah.
Just in a show, and the last couple episodes where, like, a close friend and loved one of most of the characters died, and they were pretty chill about it.
Yeah.
It was nice to see her be legit upset. But to your point, I think maybe on a second watch, since we know that she knew that Jughead's alive the entire time, she's crying because she gets her dream only at the expense of her boyfriend.
Right. And it is, regardless, it's at the expense of Jughead's dream.
Yeah.
And I also think, similar to the throwing up at her bedroom scene at the beginning of the last episode, where a lot of folks who are watching these episodes are not understanding the amount of stress that these people would be going through. And particularly Betty is so good at holding things in and just clenching and them coming out at very difficult moments. And I think here it could be the stress of keeping this secret.
Yeah.
She gets good news that's also bad news, that's weird news, and you just have a reaction to it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And also, if you were Yale, you wouldn't want two Riverdale people there. That means...
Where's Stonewall?
Where is it?
Yeah, where is it? Is it in Riverdale or it's outside?
Like a little bit further away.
Oh, okay.
Just try and draw a map of Riverdale. I dare you.
I'm on it.
Yeah.
Gonna take me the rest of the episode, but I'm on it.
Good. Great sketching so far. So many dead bodies on this map. So then we get into this runner throughout the episode of the documentary.
Right. Murder in a Small Town.
Murder in a Small Town. Alice is very chill about the fact that she's filming about this murder. And at this point, she doesn't know that Jughead's alive.
Right.
So that's weird.
Yes. Alice's reaction, I mean, Machen Amick is amazing, and she was so funny in this episode.
Yes, and didn't she direct this episode as well?
No, she's directing the 19th episode.
The 19th episode,
yeah.
okay.
This one, I actually forgetting who the director was.
Ah.
Her reactions are so funny. This was part of my problem with watching the episode the first time through is I couldn't get what tone they were going for in the episode, that it felt like if you're really trying to sell that Jughead is dead, why is everything so hilarious? Why is Alice hilarious? Why is all this Kevin stuff hilarious? Why is everybody acting so weird about everything, yet at the same time, we're supposed to feel something about that opening quote, about the funeral, and the things were jarring for me. And I think ultimately what they were doing tone-wise was they made this decision to say, no, you know he's alive. You are actually, if anything, in Donna Sweett's shoes this entire episode. So just go with it and enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why I think, does it make textual sense with what Alice would do? Later on, they excuse it as she's stressed out, so she's making a documentary. Probably not, but it's more fun to watch this way.
Definitely. The movie To Die For, a Nicole Kidman movie from back in the day, had this as a part of, I always remember the trailer was on like a old movie that we had on tape at our house for some reason, and the trailer had all this videotape footage. So it's like, oh, of course, they took that stylistic thing, something Riverdale's so good at.
Right, and To Die For I love that movie, is, if anybody's never seen it, super satirical, super dark, but it's very funny the entire time.
So I felt like they were taking that tone for sure, but also like, dude, we're talking about the meta-ness of the show, but like if you're in world, if you live in Riverdale, like a lot of like Reggie later, Kevin, they don't believe Jughead's dead, like they're like, this town's fucking crazy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like sometimes people are dead and it's fucked up and they're super dead. Other times they're not, or they're monsters or whatever. So of course everything is like
right. And another thing that I saw some people discussing that I'll just throw out to you is, and this is very much jumping ahead, why didn't they tell Alice? Why did they tell everybody else, but they didn't tell Alice?
Well, she's a reporter. Right. And she also has shown many times that she's willing to sacrifice her relationship with her friends and family to go on the local news.
Yes.
With no cameraman, and set up a camera and film something where she's like, oh, yeah? How about this?
Yeah, I think that I agree with that. I mean, people have pointed to the fact that, like, she kept a secret about Charles Smith for years. She kept a secret about being in the farm for months. But in the context of this episode, if they told her at first, she absolutely would run into Stonewall and be like, Jughead's alive in your fucking faces.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
The fact that she was willing to put a camera in her daughter's face days after her boyfriend dies and is like, I have some pretty probing questions about your relationship with your boyfriend who's now dead.
Are you fucking Archie?
Yeah.
What's going on? That sounds nice.
Mom, it's a funeral right now. My Jughead's funeral. Can you please not ask me if I'm
smile for the camera.
Yeah. That's good. HBO documentary, definitely.
Yes. Also very funny about this filming scene, Kevin is the cameraman, and his reaction to having to run two cameras at the same time, hilarious.
Yeah, he's not happy about it. That is not a union shoot.
He doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
She's like, set up these two cameras, do it.
Yeah. But you want multiple angles.
Yeah.
You want a close-up.
I love the terrible framing on the shot of Alice at the town with Pepside, where it's like she's halfway below in the frame, completely centered up. There's too much space over her head.
That's the biggest addition I want to see for next season of Riverdale is a real cameraman coming to town plot.
Right.
To really help Alice.
I noticed you have these incredibly searing documentaries where you interrogate your daughter about her sex life. I'd love to help.
The guy that made the Jinx is going to happen to be in town. So throughout this doc, we have Nana Blossom is here looking like a straight-up witch. She looks crazy.
The blood this town has been built on.
And you think Alice is like, who should I talk to first for this fucked up documentary? Well, let me talk to the witch.
Well, an interesting thing that happened in these interviews. So they interview Nana Rose, and she talks about the blood that the town was built on. And then later they interview Pop, which is super sweet, super sad, where he's like, I'm so sad about this town. I just want to make burgers. But he also mentions the blood that seeped into the soil.
Yeah.
So it was this strange.
My grandfather had a blood milkshake back in the day.
His dad made a deal with Satan.
Yeah.
Yeah, canonically in the comics.
Yeah. It was funny that he basically said, we invented milkshakes in this town. So, we run this shit.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good plot for season 5.
Yeah.
The milkshake deal. I don't know. Really running out of steam here.
The milkshake deal.
The milkshake deal. Oh, God, why won't they give me a job writing for Riverdale?
Everything with you is a deal, Alex. So we have Cheryl has an interesting role in this episode.
She does.
Not nice.
I disagree. Being nice in the Cheryl way, which is 100% supportive to the point that it is way too much.
Well, right out of the gate, she talks to Betty, calls her and Jughead Hamlet and Ophelia, which is fucked up.
Kind of fucked up, yes. But she clearly does not like Jughead. Like, she loves Betty as her cousin, is loyal to her to a fault.
Yes.
Doesn't like Jughead.
But that's still such an interesting comparison. Like, she could have gone Romeo and Juliet, any other lover, and all of...
right.
But Hamlet and Ophelia is like... They have there's never a love scene between them. They're barely. I literally saw Hamlet last night.
Oh, really?
At St. Anne's Warehouse downtown in Brooklyn, and it's just a horrible, fraught relationship where nothing goes well. Hamlet's a jerk the whole time. Yeah. Then Ophelia dies.
You're right.
So that was such a I was like, oh. As soon as she said that, I was like, oh, Cheryl's gonna have a bad episode.
Right.
She has a very bright suicide watch. She puts Betty on.
I didn't love that. It felt like, given the tone of everything, that I appreciated her being like, I'm worried about you, but it skirted the line of kind of making fun of suicide a little bit for me.
Yeah,
which
it was.
I was very iffy about that scene.
I mean, I buy that Cheryl would say something like that, but it definitely felt a little. It was a little like a show that is so meta. It was like, whoa, it took me out of it for a little.
To me, it felt like the reason for it was to motivate what happens with Cheryl later.
Yeah,
which all of that worked. Like, beyond that point, it worked for me. You want to be like, Cheryl is on Betty at all times so that she can see her with Archie later.
Yeah,
she can take the picture. She can support Veronica, et cetera, et cetera. All of these things that they set up, but that one motivating point. It needed a little modulation.
Yeah, I think that's true. We get the scene with Bret and Betty that we've seen before. Betty's going through Jughead stuff, and Bret's like, I'll see you at Yale, ponytail.
Yeah, see you there. There's a nice pizza place right outside of town that everybody goes late at night.
Connecticut pizza. Look it up on the internet. It's a thing.
We'll go there. We'll get a pizza. If you want half pepperoni, we could do that.
I love you. Oh no.
You know who does love each other? We'll get to this in a moment, but I think Donna's crushing on Betty a little bit in a weird way.
Well, there's a lot of sexual tension between everyone in this episode.
Yes.
And we get that in this next scene right out of the gate. I think this scene sort of set the bar. Archie and Veronica are basically they're getting it, right? When the camera comes up on them, and then Archie leans on her hair. Happens a lot.
Sure.
Archie.
I wrote down, Archie suddenly bad at sex? That was my note that I wrote down for that scene.
I think it was sort of a Trouble in Paradise.
Yes, I think it was too, but it was a very funny, well, we're done here.
Well, and I like that Veronica's like, this is over. You slightly pulled on my hair in a way I did not like. But also, so much of the show is seeing all these characters fuck each other, in music way.
Yeah.
And this was no music. Archie blows it.
Can I throw something out that I think I'm reading way too much into? And I think if anybody ever listens to our podcast, luckily nobody does. Yeah. I might get some hate for this on the internet. But when I was watching it again, the way that line is structured, so he goes on her hair. He rolls off of her. They're lying next to each other. And Veronica says, "Are you thinking what I'm thinking about?" And the next line, relatively innocuous. This is going to be, just bear with me for a second. There is a pause in the middle of the line, and she says, "Are you thinking what I'm thinking about?" And he says, "You mean Betty's whole kick the hornet's nest plan?" Yeah. And there's a pause there where I was like, are you doing what I'm...
That's you.
That's me
weird.
Being a fucking gross weirdo?
That's you being a weirdo.
Well, all right. We'll cut out this part of the podcast.
Definitely. Bring in the editor. That's how editing works. But yeah, it was an interesting, they've never done that where it's a sex scene starts and then finishes, usually. Right. Just like sex. And this way, it started and then is
I don't know.
Untimely. You'll figure it out. Untimely interrupted.
Someday.
And then
I'm
interrupting.
hoping to lose my virginity by graduation.
Yeah. Oh, cool. I got a plot line for you. Hermosa barges in.
Yes.
In a second interruption, Archie suddenly feels like a piece of meat with his abs.
Just puts up his
so
puts
shy.
up his little sheet there.
I thought that was very funny,
Yes.
cute moment. And he's like, "Who are you?"
We've never met.
I know, which I thought was also like, "Whoa, that's weird." You think I always imagine all the characters hanging out after the episode ends,
Right.
Like, let's all go to the Bon de
seeing
for
each
a
other
drink.
around.
Like, that's a wrap on the show Riverdale that we star in as characters
Yes.
in this town.
Oh, see you for a drink?
Yeah, exactly. Let's all go get a drink.
Let's go to the Maple Club.
What do you
I
say,
hear that-
Gargoyle King? You want to grab a brew?
Oh, that sounds great to me. I'm Chick, by the way.
Yeah. Hermosa's fucking with Veronica and it called about her investigation. We see the Hermosa stuff in this episode is interesting. It exists sort of outside of the main storyline, except for the very end.
Right.
Which I think I think we can talk about it all together. And she is just another new investigator in the cast.
It was interesting. I really like Michelle Prada on the show. I think she's great as Hermosa. I love the way the scenes were shot as she interviewed the various parents, like through the doorways. Just a really, really fun sequence.
Yeah.
And her coming up to them each with different things. She had a casserole for Alice. She wanted to enlist Mary for some lawyerly advice. So all of that made sense and really fun. But it was all to get her to a place where she reveals the information that she reveals at the end to Veronica, which was a swerve.
Yes.
I think.
Yes, and it makes Hermosa a character that was introduced at the beginning of the season, hasn't done a ton, but feels like she'll be important at some point.
Right.
I don't know how.
Yeah. It felt like she was there as a foil to Veronica, and she kind of is that, but by the end, it feels like she is there for business reasons. Not like in the show business reasons, but business in terms of the script.
Yeah. She's moving things along.
Right.
One of the scenes I did like with her is when she gives Veronica the fake Monica passport.
Oh, so funny.
With the picture of her. Like, do you think TSA will check her obvious wig when she's on the
they'll
run?
be like, "Oh, you're Monica Posh. We got this identification from Rosa."
Yeah, yeah. I also love how Veronica then tears the passport in half. She must have very strong hands.
I think she tore the ticket. I worried about that too because when I was watching, I was like, "How the fuck is she doing
she's
that?"
strong.
Jesus
That's like tearing a
Christ.
phone book in half.
Oh my god,
She's strong.
lifting.
Yeah. She has a great reveal.
Yeah.
She beats Archie in a boxing match.
I would love that.
End of the season.
End of the season.
Yeah.
You gonna kiss Betty again? I'll beat the shit out of you, buddy.
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
We get back to where we were in the documentary. FP really wrecked. He looks destroyed by this whole thing.
Yeah.
Great acting from Skeet.
Across the board, just very good job here, particularly given the fact that by the end of the episode, we find out he knew the entire time.
Yeah.
He sells it. He honestly, to me, Skeet Ulrich sells FP's sadness better than anybody else. And I think they're purposely not trying. Like everybody else is being very stilted, being very dramatic on purpose.
Yeah.
But he is whole hog inside of it.
Yeah, and I think maybe he was especially acting hard because there's a camera on them, which I think helps the device of the episode. They had to really pretend that Jughead was dead for the camera. Though this does make me think that last episode when Veronica was asking a bunch of questions about Jughead, when it was just the three of them, like if they all knew that he was alive, why was she asking questions?
Yeah, I don't know. If anybody was listening, I guess is the excuse.
Yeah, that's
I'd have
true.
to go back and watch that episode because I'm not sure how well that episode fits with this episode now.
Right.
I appreciated how How to Get Away with Murder, walk that line between is he dead, is he not?
Yes.
But now we know it felt like a different tactic here.
Well, and that episode was all about not revealing. It was having a whole episode where we truly don't know anything that's happening. Yeah. Setting up this episode where we get answers to all of the questions we had, basically.
Yeah.
By the end of the episode, most of the questions of the season have been at least pointed to.
Yeah, which is, we should definitely talk about that at the end, which is kind of a fascinating place to be.
FP investigates Donna, finds his quill and skull pin.
Now, this is Betty planted this, right? Because she found it in Jughead's things.
Yes.
So she put it in there.
Yeah.
So definitely at that point, clear indication that they're working together.
Yes, and Donna picks up on that. She immediately goes into full acting mode, cries, IDs Betty, says, great line that her and Bret were going in the woods to do what teenagers do.
Yes.
Which is TikTok. TikToks?
Right, 2 TikToks. A TikTok dance.
And then Donna says that it was Betty, Veronica, and Archie.
Yeah.
And we get the scene that we've seen
before.
before.
You're skipping by something important, which is FP saying, "That's weak sauce, kid."
Yeah. Cracker Jack dialogue.
Yes, very good. Very true to the FP character.
That's the serpent part of him coming out.
Oh, yeah.
Which
They're
is all
always
about
calling things weak sauce.
Yeah, weak sauce, hot sauce, weak sauce, hot sauce. That's how I talk about stuff.
I would love to see FP's TikTok.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
I wonder that they should do character accounts.
In-character TikTok?
Smart.
They did. Kevin was on Instagram. I don't know if they still do it, but he was definitely, like, during the first and second season, he was doing Kevin's view of what's going on at Riverdale High.
That's so funny. I
Which
would
is
love
hilarious.
that. Yeah. We get the scene we've seen of FP arresting the teens, the Riverdale 3, handcuffing them, and they walk out and get their story straight as they're walking. Which leads right into our separate interrogations. Hiram's not happy. Alice sort of says...
Mary just shuts it down.
Yeah.
And then Alice is like, "You killed your boyfriend." It's
I know. She literally says, "I was hoping for something like this." And it's like, what? No wonder you're going to tell her.
It's crazy.
I know. She's wild.
The whole Alice thing, because, like, they never firmly established exactly what happened, but she killed the shady man in their house to protect Chick back in season 2. So she's killed a person.
Yeah, she is
which is what I think she's talking about here.
Yeah, she's like, we've all killed
We've
people.
all killed people. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
I knew your darkness would come up eventually. Just admit that you killed Jughead.
It's so crazy.
We're rid of him finally.
Yeah.
I have plans for his room. We're going to put in a podcast studio.
A lot of people get into investigations and documentaries to find the dark underbelly of the country, of the world. Alice is like, you think that's fucked up? Listen to my theory on it. Because she always has the darkest take of anybody.
Right. Well, but, like, if you want to talk about 3 characters there, Alice, Kevin, and Donna are the ones who are doing Riverdale theories in Riverdale on this episode. And Alice's are much blunter. They're all about, like, oh, it's obvious to me what's happening. You killed Jughead. You're having sex with Archie. That's cool. I'm good with that. Like, so that's one read of the show. And then Donna's read of the show is just the very insistent commenters like, Jughead's not dead. Jughead's not dead. I don't know why. I don't know how he's not dead. And Kevin's the one who's, like, just throwing out the wild theories and just enjoying everything all the time.
Literally, that is a perfect breakdown of our 3 takes on this show.
Wait, who's who?
Pete's Alice, who's like impulsively like, I get it. This is happening. That's 100% Pete.
Yeah.
You are Donna.
Okay.
You're like getting into it, getting deep, and being like, I think I want the answers. Jughead's, and I'm just like, I hope Archie and Betty get together. I'm the Kevin. And like, maybe they should kiss.
I don't know. That would be fun.
This episode was like looking in a mirror for us.
Oh, man.
And I can't wait when they start a podcast on Riverdale.
I would love that.
Called Riverdale After Dark, where it's recorded
Hosted
at night.
by Kevin.
Yeah, hosted by Kevin.
Yes.
Alice and Donna. Let's
Absolutely.
get them together.
All 3 of them.
They sit and talk about just the news of the town.
Hey, guys, our sponsor this week is Pop Steiner. And our guest this week is Evelyn Evernever. You probably know her from being stuffed full of kidneys. Evelyn. So great to have you here.
It's great. That's the sort of the mark, the what WTF of teenage murder.
Oh, my God. Very into that idea. Start a podcast, Riverdale.
Yeah, listen up, Riverdale.
Change.org.
Riverdale Writers Room. Let's see it happen.
Yes.
So back into the story, they find out that it's not blood on the rock. It's fake blood, which was, again, sorry, FBI.
We should also mention there is a Scream reference here. I'm forgetting the exact line, but Skeet Ulrich in Scream has a line as Billy Loomis where he's like, corn syrup, that's what they used to make fake pig's blood in the movies.
Oh.
And he doesn't say that exact line, but he's like, corn syrup, that's what they used to make fake blood to Alice when he reveals the rock, which gets them out of jail.
That's great.
Yeah, super fun.
Super fun. Another Betty scam, Betty plan comes together. And then we get this huge reveal out of nowhere that Jonathan smeared Jughead's blood on the rock. Donna and Bret are talking to each other.
Yeah.
And this is the first indication that it's definitely the Stonies. We're trying to kill Jughead. We're like covering it up.
Thought they killed Jughead.
Yeah.
Which later on, Bret straight up is like, well, we killed Jughead. It's fine.
Yeah. I was like, whoa.
But that's Riverdale, right? Like, I think they've been doing such a good job of meticulously laying out clues in this plot line for so long that we're in the episode where it all comes out, or most of it comes out. It's all actually going to be laid out next episode. But I thought that was great. Like, I thought just like, great, let's get to it. Let's put it out there. All the secrets on the table.
And Jonathan, of course, the one who is smearing Jughead's blood. He's the blood guy.
Right. He's the blood guy. He, as we find out later, gets murdered by Donna.
Murdered off screen at some point.
Yeah, just dies. I got very worried about Joan here. What's going on with Joan? Is she okay?
Let me say, dead.
No,
she's got a
dead.
target on her back.
I will mention the only note that I wrote down for this scene is, ooh, I want a Stonewall prepped sweatshirt.
Oh, that's
they look
cool.
pretty good.
You're a bad guy.
I am.
You're a monster. You're a sociopath.
I mean, I was very into the farm last season, so I don't know what that says about me.
You're ready to join a cult.
Yeah.
And then, interestingly, after Donna and Bret are like, yes, we killed Jughead, Donna's like, nope, I think Jughead's alive now.
Yep.
And
well, I think Donna's whole thing this episode is she's spinning out of control as Betty just tightens the screws on her constantly. And that's why, like, she comes out and says that essentially. And Donna's like, no, I got to push back. I got to push back. But as opposed to last episode where the Stonies were on top, it really is the Riverdale gang who is on top behind the scenes this entire episode.
Yeah.
To the point where Donna calls her at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Very romantic.
Yeah. And it's interesting, her sort of arc across the whole season is she was like a little bit like sort of just in the pack with Bret being sort of the figurehead villain, very restrained, very like sort of specifically underplaying it.
Yeah.
And now she was completely unhinged in this episode.
Which I think, I mean, we'll probably talk about at the end. This ties into what is my biggest theory about Donna and what's going on with Donna and what the whole plan is. But we'll talk
We'll
about
get there.
that.
We'll get there.
Are you tired of the Riverdale teens playing games with the Stonewall Squad? Looking for a game that will really take things to the next level? Then you're going to want to play Best Fiends. Best Fiends is a casual matching puzzle game, so you can play it during commercials while watching Riverdale and jump in and out. It's also playable off the internet, so you can take it anywhere and still keep playing. Plus, things are always changing in the world of Best Fiends since they keep releasing updates. Even if you beat it, the game never gets old. Hey, I'm up to level 79 myself, and I'm still discovering new things every day. If you're on a budget, good news. This is a free download, and you can upgrade by paying for stuff. But there's no paywall. You can actually keep playing it for free forever if you want. And full disclosure, this episode was sponsored by Best Fiends. But also, I was playing it already, so it all worked out. Here's some info you'll want to know. Engage your brain with fun puzzles and collect tons of cute characters. Trust me, with over 100 million downloads, this 5-star rated mobile puzzle game is a must-play. Download Best Fiends free on the Apple App Store or Google Play. That's friends without the R. Best Fiends.
So we get the memorial at. They're planning a memorial at the Jughead.
Wait,
Betty
did you skip by the whole Cheryl Tony scene?
No, we'll get there. They were planning
right,
it, and then we go
yeah.
into which. Obviously, we'll talk about in a second. Archie's gym friends don't want to box with a murderer, which I was like, this dude does a bunch of crazy shit.
Yeah, there was literally a murderer outside several weeks ago. A turkey exploded and everything.
Yeah, there's a hostage situation. They're like, I'll box if I'm going to be a hostage, but maybe a murder, a teenage murderer?
That's too much.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch it. And then we get Tony in the dock being like, yeah, Jughead and I hooked up. And Cheryl looks on and is like clearly pissed.
Right. Well, no, she's not. She says she is not being threatened by one loveless tryst.
Yeah, but I think she's pissed. I think that's one of the reasons she has a grudge against Jughead is she knows that there was a thing.
Right. There was a one-night thing. I like them referencing that, though. I thought was fun. And that also definitely tied into the whole, like, Reddit wrote this episode type thing.
Yeah.
Because people are constantly like, what went on? What happened between Jughead and Tony? Did they have sex? Did they just get to third base? I need to know very specifically what happened on that night.
Yeah.
And they kind of touch on that here, but then we get to be the line of the episode.
Yes.
Where they turn to Cheryl and she says, I'm sorry I called Jughead a hobo that one time. And there's a pause, and then Alice says, "Is that it?" And she says, "I'm really sorry. I called Jughead a hobo that one time."
Yeah.
So funny.
So funny.
Oh, my God.
And, like, they're making Cheryl, and Cheryl's all over the place as a character in this show, in a great way.
Yes.
Like, you never know quite what you're going to get. And in this way, she is so couldn't care less about the murder. Like, she's, like, almost a little, like, the fun sociopath of this show in this episode. And it's just played really well where it's fun.
Well, this was the point to me. I think this was about halfway through the episode where it was definitely, like, I started to wrestle with the tone and try to, because I don't know about you. I watch an episode and at the same time I'm trying to figure out, like, where are they going? Where are we hitting at the end? What's going to happen? And the fact that, like, they had this hilarious, insane scene with Cheryl and Tony where Cheryl is slagging off of a supposedly dead guy, and then they cut to Cheryl and Tony sobbing at his funeral. I was like, what is happening
it's
here?
a roller coaster.
Yes.
But I think all the characters on this show are a roller coaster of emotions. They say one thing, and then a scene later, they're doing another thing. And I think that is intentional, and I like it as a play. It's just like I mean, there are a lot of Shakespeare references in the show, the one we talked about earlier, but like in Shakespeare's plays, characters go from hot to cold, scene by scene, and the idea is like that's what it's like when you're young.
You go to see one fucking play and suddenly you're an expert.
I am a classically trained actor, so I do think like I like that as just a full-on choice. They're not afraid to have these characters be wildly different emotional states. In back-to-back scenes.
Yeah. I liked it.
Yeah.
It was just as I was trying to wrestle with what the idea of the episode was, what the tone, what the theme was, it was whiplash.
Yeah. The best kind of whiplash, emotional whiplash.
Yeah, everybody loves that.
We get Sweet Pea, who's back, baby, doing his best job of being like, what? Hey, wait, whoa, get out of here.
Well, and keeping
it's fine.
Bret and Donna out of the funeral, which is a fucked up move. I mean, it only gets more fucked up from there in terms of what they're doing from their end. But them coming to the funeral is like pretty messed up.
But Betty, as we learn later, it's all part of her plan to have them be there and sort of slowly making Donna specifically go crazy. I love, they're like, why do you have a casket here? And she's like, it's a serpent tradition. They always have caskets. And I was
Serpents
like,
always have caskets.
What a weird
They've said
gang
that
tradition.
several times.
A lot of times the way they're earning money to the intense casket budget for the serpents is out of control.
Yeah, that's why they sell drugs to begin with, is they got to pay for all the caskets.
Exactly. Jingle
Every
jangle.
function.
Yeah.
Funerals, birthday parties,
Plots.
bat mitzvahs.
Hey, we need more hors d'oeuvres. Another gang member died.
Get another casket.
That was fun. Everyone's acting so hard. FP is very upset. The Sherlock Holmes passage that we talked about, where they died locking horns, sort of a portent for the future, I think.
It's a tease, of course, to the Lockhorns, the comic book strip.
Famous, and that's a fun comic.
It's fun.
Fresh,
They're just fighting.
fresh jokes every
They should
Sunday.
get divorced.
Yeah, oh, nice. Yeah. We
think.
should write a fan letter.
Oh, right.
No one knows
the Lockhorns.
No one knows what we're talking about. Family Circle Hive is erupting over their
right now.
lack of mention next
Their
to the Lockhorns.
TikTok is going crazy.
So then we have the scene where FP calls Hiram mayor, and I was like, oh, yeah.
Oh, right.
I forgot about the political fortunes of this town.
Right. And so Hiram is like, maybe you should take some time off, which, frankly, a reasonable thing to say.
Yes.
And FP is like, you're firing me at my son's funeral? Does the classic, you can't fire me, I quit.
Yeah.
Which I assume means now Hiram is the sheriff, because that's the way that works.
Yep, that's how it works in all towns.
Sure. Is he going to get his job back next episode?
I think we're pushing FP back to being a serpent.
Right.
He needs to be sheriff for a lot of this stuff. But, you know, a couple episodes back, he was like, I can be a serpent and a sheriff. And now the sheriff function feels like it was mostly built around Jughead's murder. Right. Now he can just be a serpent again.
Right. Well, he's got to spend a lot more time on casket management, of course.
Exactly. The casket, they've got backed up caskets. They need to kill more people to fill up the caskets.
I mean, it's a move. We know he's leaving the show now, so it's getting him at a place where it's a little easier to extricate him from the town of Riverdale.
Exactly. And the sheriff, it's, you know how hard it is for them to flip over the sheriff's position.
Right. Do you want to be sheriff?
Yeah.
You're
up,
mayor?
kid.
Do you want to be mayor as well? Okay, that's fine.
Sheriff Dr. Curdle. Sheriff Dr. Curdle mortician party clown.
I'm into it.
Yeah.
I'll stand.
Make him everywhere.
Yes.
So then we have Donna questioning Jellybean, which I was like, oh,
Yeah,
fuck.
that's the part where she questions
taste.
Jellybean. Granted, we now know Jellybean knows, so it's actually okay.
Yeah.
But Donna getting in her face about it is pretty messed up. And then she gets dragged out of the funeral and tells Bret to, I guess, knock over the casket and see if there's a body in there.
Yeah. And people stop him, Sweet Pea stops him, and he's like, she told me to do it, you heard her.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not how things work.
The impression of Bret and Donna by the end of the episode is classic Saturday morning cartoon villains.
Yeah,
like
they're
straight up.
They're Boris and Natasha.
Yes, they're Boris and Natasha. They're the Duke and the whatever from Gummy Bears is what I was thinking
Yes.
of. Where they're
Oh,
like,
nice.
Okay, Dookie.
Yeah, wow, great.
Yeah.
Deep ref.
Thanks. But yeah, she's if there were two of them, like if Jonathan was still alive, she'd be like, "Why you knuckleheads?" and hitting them on the head, and they'd be like, "Sorry."
Yeah, there's a lot of, and it's funny. Again, there's a lot of humor in the way that
So funny.
Bret went from being sort of the seeming mastermind to being this like just dumb henchman in like a matter of episodes, which is pretty wild. We get the scene with Hermosa we talked about. Then we get Kevin. Let's get into the Kevin stuff.
Yes.
Kevin asked Betty if Jughead is secretly alive. Sweet, naive Kevin.
So Kevin does not know this whole episode. I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Betty, even though she's lying about it, is like, that is pretty messed up that you'd ask me if Jughead is alive. But he's like we were talking about, he's the rumors on the internet. Like, hey, I heard from this girl, Donna, that Jughead's alive. Is that true? I just want to know. Just tell me.
Yeah,
just hit me back.
I want to believe this. I choose to believe this. So now, it's like if someone was crazy about like, oh, Barchi needs to get together for like months and even years. That would be crazy.
That would be a crazy.
That'd be a crazy
to
thing to go on about. Oh well,
yes.
I don't know anybody like that.
But better than the Kevin is asking if Jughead is alive is. And he also, in the interview, that's when he mentioned Jughead is obsessed with Tom Sawyer, is Reggie's reaction.
Yeah, that was very funny.
Which is amazing.
The best senior prank of all time.
Yes. Well, he gets interviewed by Alice, and Alice is like, how are you feeling? And he's like, sad. Yeah. Sad because I didn't get to do the coolest senior prank of all time.
And as always, Reggie was the one who knew the whole time.
Yeah.
I also think it's crazy that, back to Kevin, he's like... No, I think he's alive because I remember one time we read Tom Sawyer, and that happened in that book.
Other things happen in Tom Sawyer.
Yeah.
I think he's painting a fence somewhere, is what I think.
We also read Charlotte's Web, and that's why I think Jughead's a spider, because he likes writing. The logic there was a little loose, but to your point from earlier, like it is true.
Yes.
Jughead is the kind of guy that would want to
Absolutely.
see his own funeral.
Yeah.
So I think it works. And then we get into the real meat of this episode.
Oh, yeah.
Barchi at Pops.
Right.
Cheryl sees them.
Well,
There's some
this is Donna pushing hard enough. And I think it's like, it actually makes a lot of sense to me emotionally and plan-wise why they do this, where it's at the point where Kevin and Reggie are like, nah, Jughead's alive. It's cool. They can see their plan is starting to fall apart.
Yes.
And Donna is gaining the upper hand here, so they got to make a big move.
Yes.
And at this point, I thought it was so clear and so telegraphed in Lily Reinhardt and KJ Appa's performances, as well as a little bit of Camila Mendez's performance, but that like they are acting, like straight up acting. It's clear in that scene they're sitting at Pops, but we get the added information that Cheryl is there in listening range of what's going on.
And of course, they don't bring Cheryl in on it. They just know Cheryl's going to do the most gossipy thing. She's the TMZ of this fucking show. Yes. She's going to shatter everything as long as she gets the story.
Well, but what she does instead is she sets up an insane memorial at Jughead's
which I was like, at his locker, yeah.
Which he doesn't have a locker anymore. He goes to Stonewall. Did they save his locker for him?
I also feel like Jughead probably did. I think he was like double registered in those schools. He would go to the school.
Right. Yeah, you just stop by.
But plus, I think when you're in high school, you have your locker for your entire life.
Right.
Like I go back to my high school and put stuff in my locker all the time.
That's where I keep my gym sweats.
Yeah, exactly. Your sweats.
My sweats.
You should have switched to shorts. Yeah. Something to think about.
I wear a full body sweatsuit.
It's like you don't even know the word sweatsuit.
I don't. I go to the gymnasium.
You don't go to the gym so hard you don't even know what the clothes are that happen at a gym.
I wear my shoes, sandals?
My headband for the gym.
Yes. When I work out on the equipment.
Yeah, like the one where you put a little thing around your waist and it shakes
you. They tie you down and they tie your hands down and they operate on you. I know what this is.
The gym. They put in abs like Archie Andrews. So they just want to feel good. They go to the music room, also known as the sex room.
Right. I'm glad they recognize this, by the way.
Again, a great meta moment of Veronica being like,
right.
The music room, which is where we have sex and everyone else you've ever had sex with.
You only have sex in the music room. But Betty and Archie are there, and their dialogue is so clearly scripted. I like this because this fed off of the scene where Betty was reading scripted dialogue in the last episode. So even though we don't see Charles in the episode, I think that sense of planning is felt.
Yeah.
And they're just sort of very resigned, being like, we're going to do this dialogue in case anybody hears us or reads our lips or wherever. Yeah. And we're going to do this. We're going to go through this kiss. But.
Yes, dramatic pause.
Yes.
Real quick, there's no sex in the champagne room, but there's always sex in the music room.
Yes. Betty and Archie, they're clearly scripted. He says, I'll always be there for you. And there's a moment where she says, yeah, you have, haven't you?
Yes.
And even though...
That's real shit right there.
That's real shit.
Agreed.
Even though he hasn't textually in the show.
Never. He's almost never been there.
He's never. I don't even know if they know each other, to be honest. But in the text of this episode, there's a moment where she's like, oh, this does mean something a little more to me, I think.
Yes, and we'll talk about this more again later, but I do think the point of this episode, outside of advancing the more granular plot stuff that is what this season is about, is really opening up that sort of relationship and that emotional thing that was a big thing in the source material in the comic books for this for the show, but it's never been in the show except for in a little bit in the first season of Archie
there
being
was a
in between.
Brief kiss in the second season as well.
Yeah.
When they were on the Black Hood, but like they've only danced around it.
Yes, and avoided it largely,
and rightly so. I think like the Buddy Jughead relationship has been so strong. I'm curious and nervous to see how they're going to play this out going forward.
I'm curious and not nervous. So this was great. Lots of...
Cheryl catches them kissing, takes a photo of them. It does a callback because she was the one that saw them kissing in the car.
Yeah. I did love that line. Well, she just had a whole line. She had a whole speech prepared, but she's like, I'm always seeing you two fucking kissing.
Why do I have to be this? She texts... if you look at her phone, she texts Tony, Reggie, Kevin, and more.
Yeah.
We only get to see the three of them, but clearly they have this whole Barchi.
There's a lot of text going off in Riverdale High, and then doesn't text Veronica, but tells her in the bathroom, and we get the scene that you described of Veronica going in and just tearing into them, burning hell to both of you.
Well, and burning into Archie first and saying, Betty, it's okay. Again, totally scripted, but Betty, it's okay. And then Betty shoots back at her, and she's like, no, you're dead to me. Our friendship is over. That's it. Tony follows that up with "That's right, you tell him, girl," which is hilarious.
Yep, funny little one-liner.
And the two other notes that I wanted to mention: Veronica, when Cheryl goes to tell her, and she's like, "I don't know if I should tell you this." She says, "We're Maple partners. Please just tell me what's going on."
Yeah,
which everybody needs a Maple partner in their life.
I know. God, I remember my first Maple partner.
The other thing, Kevin's reaction when Veronica actually mentions Miss Grundy as somebody that he fucked in the music room.
Yeah, he's like, noted.
Yeah. Oh, interesting piece of information there.
Gonna write that down.
Gonna talk about that in this week's podcast.
Yeah, Riverdale After Dark.
Yeah.
Then we get the scene we talked about, Kevin in the documentary, where he talks about closeted Barchi stands. He's literally speaking for me, Justin Tyler.
I wrote it down for you. I think there were a lot of closeted Barchi stands out there who have been waiting for this moment. We just hope that it's true. There are a lot of people who don't think Bughead should have happened. It was always supposed to be Betty and Archie.
My man.
I know I said this earlier. My brain, I was like, what is happening
so
right now?
Good.
Twitter wrote this.
Yeah.
So funny.
It was written right out of my heart onto the show. Loved hearing it. Loved seeing it. Kevin's speech is perfect. And I did like Barchi proves that Jughead is dead. So
wait. Oh yeah, Barchi. Right. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And I think that
I thought that was you saying that.
Yeah. But Kevin and I are the same person. Yeah.
There we go.
And I think this line shows in this moment, before I knew anything else that happens, I was like, oh, Betty knows Jughead is alive. And she doesn't mind risking destroying her friendships and relationships to continue to win this fight with Donna.
This was a big turning point of the episode.
Yeah.
For me, it felt like, okay, Archie is in on this, Betty is in on this, not 100% sure about Veronica or anybody else, but like clearly they are play acting at this point.
Yes.
And I think that's great because like the pace of the episode, the way that it's edited, the way that it's acted, ramps up insanely by this point. I mean, it's pretty fast anyway, but like they know it was paced to the way the viewers are realizing things in the episode.
Yeah, which I think is so smart and so in tune. That's the thing about this show, specifically this episode, is it's very in tune with us.
Yes.
The people who watch and enjoy it.
Yeah. Then we get the Donna scene, right? Donna confronts Betty.
Yeah. And it's just like, you're a nymphomaniac. I've seen it. It made it seem like Donna watches it a lot.
Absolutely. She is obsessed with that sex tape. It is number one on her iTunes list.
Yeah. You think it's on iTunes? You think they're making money on it?
I watched it on iTunes.
Getting the crossover into reality.
Make some money there.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's like, you can't go 2 hours without that. Crazy.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yes.
And then we get Betty and the doc talk about going to the sex bunker with food. Seeing Betty actually enter the sex bunker, I was like, yo, this is fucking crazy. Because we've never seen the exterior of the bunker in that way before.
Right.
A long shot far away with her being like, squeak, squeak, opening
it was insane. The thing
so
that I liked about this, because now we're on board and understand a little bit of what's going on with Betty, even though I think there's still some questions in your mind when you're watching this, is like, this is clearly motivated by Donna being like, you can't stop having sex. I still don't believe it.
Yeah.
And so I knew the entire time, like, they're going to the sex bunker. She's down there with Archie. She is just doing this for Donna. And
Justin.
And Justin.
Seeing them together is for Justin.
Yes. And Donna goes down, and she does see Betty and Archie there. We find out later that Jughead is under the bed while they're making out.
And next to the dead body that's been there for
Tall
many
boy,
years.
yeah.
Tall boy.
Yes. He's like, oh, hey, how are you doing? And Tall boy's like, braids.
Yeah.
And Sarah Desjardins, by the way, who is playing Donna, so good. Her reaction here when they're screaming "Get out" at her is so funny and so much fun.
Right. Whoa. It's a great scene. Betty's back in the documentary admitting to her mom that she's like having sex with Archie in the bunker.
Right.
Then finally she's like, yo, can we turn this off? I have to tell you.
Right. And then
so
Alice,
crazy.
to the point, again, whatever you think outside of the episode, in this episode, to the point, like, they did not tell Alice because she would blab immediately. They turn off the camera. She turns it back on, and she's like, so this is a conspiracy.
She's like, it's not about murder. It's about something even crazier. Teens fucking each other.
It's cover-up. It's a whole cover-up.
Yeah.
I can't tell you what, but... Anyway, who is going to watch this? We don't know.
Yeah, this tape is going to definitely sit in the... It's going to be a VHS. It's going to sit in there, a VCR, for many years.
Yes.
We get Veronica and Archie, and Archie says to Veronica that she's the only girl for him.
Right.
Proving
also,
that she is definitely not.
Well, so let's talk, because there's these two scenes back to back, again, in terms of the pace speeding up. You get Veronica and Archie in bed. They're like, wow, we really pulled one over on them. Good job. And Veronica says she got that from Helen Mirren's masterclass. So shout out to Helen Mirren.
Yep. Mirren
Good
getting the
for
love.
her business. And Archie immediately affirms himself to Veronica, and then we get the big reveal in the bunker. Betty's there. They have a great, well-composed shot.
Beautiful.
Revealing Jughead is there. He's alive. He did get hit with a rock. His beanie protected him.
Yes, his very thick beanie.
Very thick beanie protected him.
His Kevlar yarn beanie.
Right. So he did get hit by the rock, but that saved his life. And they have the same conversation. Jughead asked Betty, did you have any other feelings? And she's like, no, of course I didn't.
Yeah.
And I do think in these scenes, they are being true. Like, I do think, like... Here's the complicated thing we're going to have to deal with going forward. I think even at this moment, Betty...
Complicated.
Betty loves Jughead. Archie loves Veronica. Like they do, but people can have complicated emotions where they have feelings for more than one person at the same time.
Been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. I thought you were going to elaborate.
No, I would
Blow
never.
up some spots.
I would never. No, I agree with you, and I think they are being honest in this scene, but I think the scene we get. I mean, we can just get there. That's what happens next, basically.
I do want to mention one other thing. So there's a couple of other cute things that happen in the scene. She makes a new beanie for him, puts it on his head, just like in the season 3 premiere. He put his beanie on her head, so very cute throwback there.
Yep.
She had the time to learn knitting. And we also find out that Charles, FP, Jellybean, Dr. Colonel Jr., and Mary Andrews all know, as well as presumably Archie and Veronica. And there's one important thing that Betty says here, because they're very confident at this moment, right?
Yes.
She says to Jughead, when you don't have confidence, mistakes are made. And that's their whole plan to get it over the Stonies. They're confident now, and they make a big mistake.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting and well-structured. It's kind of just very casually thrown in there.
Yeah.
But it points to the mistake that Betty and Archie and Jughead in particular are making.
What do you mean?
The milkshakes.
Ah, I see. Yes.
Which is kind of a sketchy mistake, but we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
But to get back to the Barchie thing, though, so I think the couples are being true to each other in that scene.
In their scenes, their separate scenes, yes.
But then...
But there's a reason this scene comes after those scenes.
The Veronica scene?
The scene with Betty and Archie texting.
There's a scene before
There's
that,
a scene,
though.
yes.
Where
Veronica in the dock.
Yeah, she's being interviewed, and Alice is like, do you have a problem with my daughter fucking
your boyfriend?
You like that?
And Veronica's like, Alice, please knock it down. End of this documentary.
I am a teenager.
Yeah.
This is literally illegal. But Veronica, when she's like, no, I have absolute confidence. I have no problems in my relationship with Archie. I completely trust them. She doesn't. She has doubts.
Yeah.
And I think if there is anything, even more than Betty and Archie, I think the thing that could potentially tear them apart are the doubts that Veronica and potentially Jughead have.
Yeah, I think by the end of the season, there's going to be, I agree with you, I think it's going to end up being Veronica and Jughead who are the ones telling Betty and Archie, like, there's something going on here.
Yes.
Because I think what Betty and Archie, based on this text scene, are going to start having is something that they are not in control of.
Yeah.
That's like a little secret romance that they've always sort of believed in.
Right.
And we've all always believed in our hearts, just some of us were brave enough to say it out on the podcast.
Yeah, just like Kevin Keller.
Exactly.
So we get this text conversation, very, very rich text. So much going on there.
Like, I was just drinking it up.
Yes.
Eating it up like just the best.
Yeah, hope I wasn't
Jingle,
a bad
jingle.
kisser.
Yeah.
Winky face. And then he types out, LOL, no, it was great, or something like that, and adds, happy to do that anytime.
Anytime.
Deletes it, but before he deletes it, we get a shot of Betty seeing the 3 dots.
Seeing dots.
So it's clear that they're both like...
Telltale dots is what they
Telltale
call
dots, the deleting, and then they do kissy face goodnight, which is relatively innocuous.
Kissy face?
Kissy face.
That's a strong emotion.
I send all of my friends kissy faces.
I haven't gotten
And
one.
I kiss them right on the mouth.
And
How am I going to transfer coronavirus between my friends?
I know you are. It's odd that you haven't admitted to be patient 0 yet when you clearly are.
I mean, that's what this podcast is for.
Yeah, good. Glad to be sharing a room with you as usual. I think the door is open here. Barchie is rising. Text Barchie is here.
Sure. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I'm concerned, nervous that this is going to be like same as season 2. It's a one and done type thing where they've opened this door. If they can figure out a way to organically explore it that is respectful of all of the characters, I think it would be great and exciting and interesting to see.
Well, respect for all the characters. There's going to be heartbreak.
Sure. I'm saying in terms of the writing, like if we cut in next episode and Betty and Archie are making out and they're like, we're really getting whatever.
We got you, Donna. It's like, what?
Yeah, that would not be good. But if they can figure out a way to make it hurt in the right way, I think that's great.
Yeah.
So then we get over to Bret. He's polishing some watches, it looks like.
Classic rich person
and
activity.
This is where we get the big mistake, which is that it is impossible for 2 people to have 3 milkshakes.
Yes, disgusting.
It never happens.
Drinking 2 milkshakes?
It's crazy that Bret is like, what was there, like 5 burgers? What are you talking about, Donna? And she's like, no, there were 3 milkshakes. A bigger clue.
And Bret, because I think while this was like the smoking gun milkshake,
Yes.
I mean, Bret so hard doesn't go for it, and then Donna slaps Bret, which was great, and then admits that they killed Jonathan.
Yeah.
So like series of big reveals there, but it makes me think that we're just in full unhinged Donna mode.
Yeah.
But unhinged Donna, because she is right about the third milkshake.
Yes.
And that's a very Jughead thing to do, is to be like, see the clue of the third milkshake and be like, that's it.
Yeah. Well, that's the funny thing about Donna is she's actually correct this entire episode. Like she's spinning out of control emotionally, but she is 100% accurate at every single point across the board.
Yeah.
She knows what's going on. And then we get the big reveal at the end. Hermosa passes some information to Veronica. She brings it to everybody in the sex bunker, and they find out that Donna Sweett is not Donna Sweett's real name, and that is the clue that Jughead needs to bring everything together. And we're going to get the big reveal of that the next episode.
Great.
So before we get into all of that and reading your questions, and
Wait,
everything,
do you want to talk about there's going to be theory?
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about
fair.
theories. I think we should read Pete's statement first.
Yes, definitely.
This is my mistake for asking Pete for a statement, so I apologize.
Huge mistake.
Big mistake. He says, should I read it in a Pete voice or just read it?
Well, I don't know. That's risky.
Pete. I'll just read it in normal. This episode almost made me quit watching the show forever. I was so fucking mad when Betty and Archie kissed. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was at work and had to cover my own mouth versus somebody else's mouth.
And that's good because coronavirus don't be touching. Shouldn't be touching your face, let alone anyone else's face.
Because I was yelling, no! So much crazy shit in this ep. Then when I thought my heartache was over, we saw the texting. Kiss, and then he put the kiss emoji. I told you, we texted each other.
I think he's indicating a very specific thing there, that he wants to kiss you.
On the mouth?
Definitely. That's what the emoji's doing.
He's done for then. Emoji is real. They send kisses back and forth. I hope you are happy, JT says. You are getting your wish, and it is ruining the show we all love. 4 exclamation points. So much stuff up in the air. Chick and FBI, bro.
This turns into a rant. I think that you could stop this at
I'll just read these things real quick. VHS tapes, Baxter Brothers books. Is Betty going to yell or is Jughead? Donna Bret, evil pledge. Jughead, 2 G's in Jughead.
Yeah.
Body or he was drugged, also 2 G's, appropriately. Evil sister of Veronica wants for family business. Mr. Jones out of job. Evil mayor is now sheriff. I appreciate the fact that we've been recapping the show for 4 seasons nonstop, and he still doesn't know the characters' names.
It's crazy to call Hiram evil mayor. That's such a small part of what he is.
Yes. And also, I can't believe that was the longest text message Pete has ever sent to us in 14 years.
I know. It's like, whew, just keeps going.
Yeah. Now, lots of questions, lots of theories, and we're already running a little long on this one, but can we keep going for a little bit? All right, let's go for it. So this is from Lauren Rod 1229 on Instagram. Do you think there is any connections from Riverdale past that is in the preppies? Also, are we going to learn everything that happened that night in the next episode?
Yeah.
To take the second one first, I guess we don't know. We haven't seen it, but the implication based on the promo is yes, they are going to lay everything out, and at least
we're going to get Jughead's POV.
Yeah, exactly.
Is what I think.
And I think we're going to find out what was happening with his dead body. We're going to find out how they got away with it. We're going to find out who Donna is. And I think based on the fact there was some interview Sarah Desjardins did with some other podcast, which is crazy that there's other podcasts, but she said that they wrapped with episode 16. So I think we're going to be done with Stonewall, but I cannot imagine with 6 episodes left in the season that we're actually going to be done with the storyline.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's still more to come.
Yeah, I think Donna feels like she's emerging as a villain that will last the whole season, even as we have to get back to the videotaped door fronts, the front porches, and the Chick and Charles stuff.
Well, and to the first question, let's talk about the Donna identity thing. Do you think there's any connections with Riverdale's past, with the preppies? I mean, I think it can't be a name like, well, of course, she's Donna Rockefeller.
Yep, true. Donna Trump.
Ooh, man. That would be crazy.
Whoa. Okay.
All right, fine. Going for it, I guess.
Hard, right?
Yeah. It's got to be some connection to somebody in the past. We don't know if her first name is Donna, but assuming her first name is Donna, her last name is an indication of something else. Do you have any major theories, or should I hit you with mine?
The first couple, the couple that I thought of were Donna Honey.
Yes.
That feels like an unexplored area. But then it's like, what is he? Then is Mr. Honey, Principal Honey, somehow embroiled with Charles and Chick?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think the honey thing makes sense because to go from Sweett to honey, like that's a pretty easy lift right there. Also, he showed up at the beginning of the year. There's certainly thoughts that he is evil in some way. Also, the 19th episode is titled "Killing Mr. Honey," so it feels like he's got to be involved in some way, and that would very nicely move the action back to Riverdale High. Yes. So my suspicion at this point is that we're done with Stonewall. Jughead comes back to Riverdale High, and whatever mystery we have with like DuPont, the Baxter brothers,
his grandfather, who we saw and then never again,
right, and then disappeared. Yeah, I think that's got to come back. That's got to tie to Honey in some way, so we won't have all the clues, but that seems the most straightforward to me.
Does it sound crazy if because the grandfather felt like he wasn't a big enough character that we need to see more from him? We just need to know about him. Yeah. Does that mean that maybe Mr. Honey is another son that he had, who is maybe Jughead's uncle, making Donna, if she's Miss Principal Honey's daughter, then is she Jughead's relative?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, sure, that's possible. I mean, a couple of other quick ideas that I'll throw out about Donna, just some theories. Like, a lot of people are saying, oh, she's probably Donna DuPont. That feels like
a little too close.
A little too close. It wouldn't add anything necessarily. The one that I did like that I think is actually like slightly too off, though it makes sense, is Donna Evernever. Right. Because she knows she was already talking to Evelyn, clearly has it out for everybody. But to me, the Evernevers are Betty's villain, and even though Betty got involved, this is about Jughead.
Agreed.
The other one that I'll throw out there, though, that I think would be kind of a wild swerve, which gets into the thing that I was hinting at earlier, is if she was Donna Peabody, and she was actually Penny Peabody's daughter. Right. Because to me, Penny Peabody is the main person who has it out for Jughead. It's like,
specifically, has sort of said, I will kill you.
Yes. Kidnapped his dog, and tried to kill him one time, the last time that we thought he was dead. So here's my crazy theory that's almost based on nothing. But like, if she is Donna Peabody, if she is Penny Peabody's daughter, she has come from nothing, right? She's been brought up in a gang, just like Jughead. She manages to use a fake name, Donna Sweett, get in with all the preppies, get into Stonewall Prep, build up this reputation for herself, build up this life for herself, and then Jughead comes in like 1 week, gets all the recognition that she's ever wanted. Right. And that could be a very clear like motivation of man comes in, get what she wanted. She, as a woman, has worked forever and gets none of the recognition. Also has this family grudge from Penny Peabody. In my mind, I feel like that works a little better as a one-to-one, potentially.
I think that works, but I've always seen Penny as sort of a mini boss. Yeah. And that would put her on in sort of God-level status of boss if she's part of that. So I would be still surprised about that. I think Donna Honey's the cleanest one for me. Yeah. I guess we'll see. Donna Grundy.
That would be crazy.
That would be crazy.
Yes. A couple of other quick ones. Ashley Sizemore on Twitter says, Donna has totally escaped Farmy, right? And I think we kind of covered that, but I feel like probably not.
I would be surprised about that. Though, I mean, it does... The farm will return, I feel like. We've been clinging on to the Evernevers. Who knows?
I hope we bring back Evelyn. I love her. Yeah. X Sprouse Heart Snack X on Instagram says, all caps, no Barchie, please. And then followed up with, I know it's not a theory, but still laughing my ass off.
And let me say, like, I know I'm the Barchie person on this podcast, and I responded with a Barchie GIF to Alex to a tweet on our account.
Whoever tweeted it, we don't know.
We don't know who runs the tweet on our account, and got some fire from it. And like I think Bughead is fine. Yeah. I'm not trying to say to shit on Bughead. I'm just saying that's what I'm chasing. That's what I love.
Yeah, I actually, like I said, I would be bummed if they don't follow up in some way, but I hope they do it in a way that doesn't alienate the entire fan base of Riverdale.
And I trust that they will. I trust that they'll do it right.
Yeah, I agree. A couple of other quick ones from Twitter. Homo's Odyssey on Twitter says, I just wanted to say that I'm really, really sorry for calling Pete a hobo. Rip Pete, I guess. This is from Nelson. Seeing as how you guys recently attended Monday Night Raw, out of all Riverdale cast, which ones would you want to see in the WWE ring?
Wow.
We're big wrestling fans now.
We are, clearly. The easy answer is Hiram.
he's
would be
wide.
perfect. He's as jacked as a lot of those wrestlers.
Yeah.
And he could go in there and just be a great heel, like a big money heel, come in there and just like be a jerk.
Yeah, I will say they included a GIF of Archie and Mad Dog. Mad Dog would be pretty good as well.
Mad Dog would be great. Throw Archie in there.
Yeah, why not? Tag team. There you go. Jody says on Twitter, I am very certain that Donna has a link to either Penny Peabody or Mr. Honey. Also, they had me fooled with the Archie and Betty stuff, and I'm just glad the universe is back to normal. LOL.
That's nice. Enjoy that because it changes.
Ryan Hetzler, #1 Choney fan on Twitter. I don't know if #1, but definitely big Choney fan on Twitter. Says,
really controversial take.
No, I think Vanessa Morgan is probably the #1 Choney fan on Twitter. What do you think the significant Choney moment that happens at the end of the season will be? They've teased there's a significant moment. I don't know if it's the end of the season, but it's definitely coming. A lot of people were like, they're going to get engaged. That feels a little far to me.
Yeah. I mean, what else could it be, though? They live together. They're pretty dedicated to each other.
Yeah, I really have no idea.
Getting engaged makes total sense.
Yeah, I feel like that makes sense as well. And I guess some couples do after high school.
Definitely. And it's not to say that it'll all work out. I could see then that being a major plot line next season is the difficulty of people who are like 17 getting married.
2 other quick ones. Ginblit says, do you think FP the First is going to come back to play? Definitely thought that's where Jughead was going to be hiding out. Love you guys and the podcast. Oh, thank you so much.
That's a good theory. That Jughead was hiding out with a grandfather. That would have made a lot of sense, especially if he was there which they alluded to a little bit, that Jughead was there working on writing. He was in the sex bunker writing.
To your point that you made earlier, I think they got to tie it up in some way, but we don't necessarily need to see him again.
Yeah.
They just need to kind of reference what his role in everything was.
Yeah, exactly.
And the last one, this is from Sam FIFA Brit. I'm surprised by the choice to reveal Jughead as alive so soon, and the next time trailer makes that public to everyone, because I'm not sure where they're going to go from here, nor am I sure where Charles and Chick and the tapes get into all of this. No theories, just confusion. Massive crying face. Yeah, I agree. There's so many things that they threw out there at the beginning of the season, and the Jughead death mystery has been the major mystery. To tie it up in 16 episodes and
in really 2 episodes.
Yes, is classic Riverdale.
Classic Riverdale, and I think it just goes to show that no matter what we think, they always upset expectations and do something wild and interesting, but like is so different than what we had thought.
I just feel like for the arc of the season, though, with 6 episodes left, everything needs to connect somehow, right?
Yeah.
Like, it would be weird if you had a 16-episode story that was teased in the season 3 finale and then 6 episodes about their graduating high school.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a connection there. We have to have a payoff about the tapes in particular.
And I still am standing by my theory that it's a hypnosis thing, and we're going to get that being like Chick and Charles have been working together to take over the town for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if it's going to be similar to last season where we almost had like 2 villains going simultaneously, or if it will be one big plot. And you know what? I'm excited to find out.
Me too.
Before we wrap up, MVP for the episode. Who's your MVP?
I mean, that's a tough one, but I'm going to have to go with, as I always do, Betty. All day, air day.
You're always saying that.
Always saying Betty. I mean, so much going on in this episode. She was... In the last 2 episodes, I'll combine them because she had to play so many different things. Lily Reinhart, like being... sad about Jughead, but also like ice cold about it because she knows he's not dead and is just working this plot. And just the way she sent that text to Archie, cementing the rise of Barchi, was exciting.
There were so many great performances in this episode. It's so much fun in this episode. It's definitely a tough call. I kind of want to go with Cheryl just because she had my favorite line. Cheryl. No, but I'm going to pick Kevin this episode.
Yeah.
He has not been featured for so long, but Kevin was all of us in this episode.
He's my guy.
And it was just so wonderful, so delightful.
Yeah.
Just such a great move that, like I mentioned, for me, crisped in the whole tone of the episode. It felt like it explained what they were going for, and I appreciated that quite a bit.
Great stuff.
If you want to support this podcast, patreon.com/comic book club. Also, we do a live show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. at the People's Improv Theater Loft in New York. Come on by and we'll chat with you about Riverdale. Socially, you can check us out on Twitter at Riverdale After, on Instagram at Riverdale Dark, and on Facebook, Riverdale After Dark. Comicbookclublive.com for this podcast and more. iTunes, Android, Spotify, Stitcher, or the app of your choice to listen and subscribe on iTunes. Please leave us a comment. They help us a lot. And we'll see you after dark.
Barchi has risen. Kiss emojis to all.
Night.